A ferocious wind rips through the jagged peaks, shrieking like a banshee unleashed from the depths of the earth. Somewhere, lost in the frozen heart of an untamed wilderness, a shadow lurches forward, slow, deliberate, teetering on the edge of collapse. A guttural growl pierces the air, swallowed instantly by the vast, merciless expanse. Then, out of nowhere, a scent, sweet and maddening, slices through the icy gloom like a lifeline thrown into a storm. What's coming next? A heart-stopping battle for survival, dangling over the razor's edge of oblivion. Buckle up, because this isn't just a tale. It's a roller coaster of raw instinct, bone-chilling danger, and a flicker of humanity that'll clutch your soul until the final, breathless moment. Don't blink. You won't want to miss a single second. Let's plunge in. The mountains towered like ancient, wrathful gods, their snow-draped summits stabbing into a sky suffocated by thick, churning clouds, gray as a predator's glare. The wind wasn't just cold, it was a living beast, slashing through the cliffs with razor-sharp claws, rattling loose stones that skittered into the void below. Winter held this desolate kingdom in a stranglehold, its icy talons sinking deeper with every gust, every heartbeat. The silence was a heavy shroud, oppressive and unbroken, save for the wind's haunting wail, until a faint, labored shuffle cut through the stillness. A grizzly bear, its once formidable bulk now a hollow shell, staggered across the frozen waste. Each step was a war against collapse, its massive paws crunching through the snow as hunger clawed at its insides with relentless fury. Its stomach snarled, a deep echoing cavern of torment that sapped the last embers of its strength. The bear's amber eyes, clouded with exhaustion and despair, swept the horizon, searching for a miracle in this wasteland of white. It was alone, utterly, devastatingly alone, its spirit fraying at the seams, ready to unravel into the cold embrace of surrender. Then, it froze. Its nostrils flared, quivering as a whisper of something divine brushed against them. Honey. Thick, golden, life-sustaining honey. A scent so potent it jolted the bear's dying resolve back to life. Its pulse hammered, a primal fire igniting in its chest. With a shuddering breath, it thrust its snout skyward, tracking the aroma to a jagged cliffside that loomed like a guillotine against the storm. There, teetering on a frail ledge far below, glowed a beehive, a shimmering beacon of hope in a sea of despair. The bear's eyes blazed with a feral, ravenous hunger, its cracked lips trembling as saliva pooled in its mouth. This was it, its final shot at survival, a do-or-die gamble, against the jaws of fate. But here's the hook that'll keep you on edge. Could it conquer the abyss to claim it? Or would this sweet promise lure it straight into a screaming plunge to doom? Grip tight, because the real storm is about to break loose. The bear crept toward the cliff's edge, its hulking silhouette stark against the roiling, tempestuous sky. The drop was a nightmare made real, hundreds of meters of sheer, unyielding rock plummeting into a black, bottomless chasm that seemed to pulse with hunger. One slip, one falter, and it was finished. No second chances, no mercy. But hunger is a tyrant that bows to no fear. With a low, rumbling growl that vibrated through its chest, the bear drove its claws into the stone, testing the deadly descent. The wind roared back in defiance, a howling demon clawing at its matted fur. Desperate to hurl it into the void, step by tortuous step it lowered itself, the honey's scent swelling into a maddening crescendo that drowned out the gale, the terror, the thunder of its own racing heart. The hive was tantalizingly near now, so close the bear could almost feel the sticky warmth on its tongue, could almost taste the salvation it craved. Its paws scraped the ledge, muscles quaking under the crushing weight of its frame, tendons stretched to the snapping point. Just a few more inches. Then, crack! The rock beneath its hind leg exploded into dust, disintegrating into the abyss. Time warped as the bear's massive body pitched downward, a bone-rattling roar erupting from its jaws. The world became a dizzying whirl, gray stone, black emptiness, and the sickening lurch of freefall. Death's icy grip lunged upward, eager to drag it down into eternal dark. But survival screamed louder. With a primal, earth-shaking surge, Its front claws slammed into a protruding ledge, arresting its fall in a shower of splintered rock. Now, it hung there, a fragile thread between existence and annihilation, its body swaying like a pendulum over the gaping maw below. The wind pummeled its face, a relentless assault, while its hind legs flailed uselessly against the slick cliffside. The abyss growled beneath, a living beast licking its lips, waiting for the inevitable. Its breaths rasped in short, frantic bursts, each one a ragged cry to cling on just a heartbeat longer. Was this the end? Had its last hope turned into its executioner? Or could a twist of fate, something wild, something impossible, snatch it from the brink? Don't you dare turn away. This is where the stakes skyrocket and the unknown crashes, in like a tidal wave. High above, shrouded behind a frost-crusted boulder, a lone figure crouched, his breath fogging in the frigid air. A documentary filmmaker, he'd trekked to these savage peaks to capture nature's brutal ballet. Life and death in their unscripted, untamed glory. His camera hummed, its lens locked on the bear's frantic struggle, recording every claw mark, every shudder. He'd witnessed the wild's cruelty 100 times, predators tearing into prey, the weak crumbling under the strong. It was the law of this realm, cold, impartial, eternal. But this scene, it was a dagger to his chest. The bear's eyes, wide with raw terror yet flickering with a stubborn spark of hope, burned through the viewfinder and seared into his core. His breath hitched, his throat tightening as if the wind itself had squeezed it shut. Nature was a merciless judge, he knew that. He'd stood by before, a silent observer to its verdicts. But as the bear's claws gouged the rock, as its roars melted into broken whimpers, a crack split through his resolve. Should he step in? His mind spun like a storm-tossed leaf. To interfere was to defy the sacred order, to thrust a human hand into a game ruled by fang and claw. Yet those eyes, they weren't just a beast's. They were alive, screaming, human in their naked desperation. Could he really stay rooted there, filming a death he could prevent, letting the lens drink in the tragedy while his heart bled out? The seconds stretched into eternity, each one a hammer blow to his conscience. His fingers twitched toward his pack, then froze. What if he failed? What if he made it worse? But then the bear slipped, an inch, a heartbeat, and a choked gasp tore from the man's lips. That was it. Decision made. What would you do, listener? Stand frozen as the wild claims its toll, or throw yourself into the fray? Chew on that, because this man's next move is about to hurl you into a whirlwind of adrenaline and soul. With hands shaking like leaves in a gale, he ripped his backpack open, clawing through its contents until he yanked out a thick, battle-scarred rope. His fingers stumbled over the knots, tying it to a jagged outcrop as the wind lashed his face, stinging his eyes with ice. Every loop was a desperate plea, every pull a vow etched in sweat and grit. He leaned over the precipice, staring, down at the bear dangling by a thread. Their eyes collided, fear crashing into determination, and in that electric instant, a silent bond snapped into place, fierce and unbreakable. "Hey, big guy," he shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos like a beacon. "Hold on tight. I'm pulling you out of this hell." He flung the rope downward, its frayed end dancing in the wind, teasing the bear's reach. The animal faltered, its gaze darting between the lifeline and the man above, doubt warring with instinct. Then, with a guttural snarl, it lunged, its massive paws seizing the cord in a death grip. The filmmaker dug his heels into the rock, bracing for impact. He pulled, and the world fought back. The weight was a titan's, a crushing force that set his arms ablaze, the rope slicing into his palms like a branding iron. The bear's bulk scraped against the cliff, dislodging a cascade of stones that plummeted into the void with hollow, echoing thuds. Sweat stung his eyes, his breaths exploding in sharp, ragged bursts. "Come on, damn it, come on!" he bellowed, teeth gritted so hard they might shatter. The rope bucked, an inch, then 3, and his heart slammed into his throat. Was this it? Would the line snap, sending them both spiraling into the dark? The wind howled a mocking laugh, The cliff groaned under the strain, and for a split second, the abyss seemed to grin. "No," he roared back, a primal scream of defiance tapping into a well of strength he didn't know existed. With a final, back-breaking heave, the bear's claws raked the cliff's edge. It thrashed, scrambling, its paws clawing at the stone until, miracle of miracles, it hauled itself onto solid ground. It was up. It was alive. The filmmaker crumpled, his chest heaving like a bellows, staring at the sky as the wind shrieked its fury around him. The bear loomed just feet away, its labored gasps syncing with his own. Their eyes locked again, and this time, something seismic passed between them, a current of raw, unspoken power. What was it? Relief? Gratitude? A shard of something eternal? You'll taste it too if you hang on just a little longer. The climax is still brewing. The bear staggered forward, its colossal frame swaying like a ship battered by a storm. Then it stopped dead. Slowly, almost reverently, it swung its head around, pinning the man with a stare that cut through the howling wind and the fading light. No words crossed the gap. None could. But in that look burned a quiet, soul-shaking thank you, a recognition so deep it transcended the wild, the cold, the divide between man and beast. It was a moment carved from the marrow of existence, silent hymn to survival and the fragile thread that binds all living things. The filmmaker's lips trembled into a smile, exhausted, tender, brimming with a warmth that defied the frost. "Go on, friend," he rasped, voice barely a whisper against the gale. "You've earned every damn step." The bear held his gaze a heartbeat longer, then turned, its silhouette lumbering into the shadowed embrace of the forest, swallowed by the trees like a ghost fading into legend. The filmmaker slumped there, alone again, the weight of the ordeal crashing over him, like a tidal wave. His camera rested beside him, still whirring, its lens drinking in every pulse of this raw, heart-wrenching saga. As the wind softened to a mournful sigh, he felt it in his bones. This wasn't just a recording. It was a monument, a roaring, breathing testament to the unseen tether linking humanity to the wild, a story that would echo long after the tape ran out. And now, listener, it's yours to hold. What's it sparking in you? A rush of courage? A shiver of awe? A gnawing question about where we stand in this vast, untamed chaos? Speak up. I'm aching to hear your voice weave into this epic. So what's your move? Will you clutch this moment close, let it burn in your chest, or let it slip into the silence? It's your call, but I'd wager my last breath you won't shake this bear, this man, and that teetering edge of the abyss anytime soon. Tell me, what's it left clawing at your soul?